Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com. So I got a question about the importance of being punctual. I think this is great. I don't think I've addressed this really, but this is a really good question, honestly. This is something that's actually pretty important. And I think a lot of people don't realize how important it is or how easy it is to actually become a punctual person. I'm pretty damn punctual. Yeah, I'll admit that I sometimes slip up in this area, but I got a pretty good solution for you that I think will help you out. So first of all, let's get to the question here. And the question is, hi, John. First of all, thanks for all your videos, which really keeps me motivated. And all along, I have one question which keeps bothering me very often, and that is how important is it to be a punctual person? I'm asking this because I am struggling a lot to be a punctual person, i.e. reach on time for meetings, bus stops, conferences, and sometimes I feel very low when I am late for any of these events. Thanks in advance. Okay, so let's talk about this for a little bit. First of all, is it important to be punctual? Yes, absolutely. You know, one of the worst things that says that one of the worst, I think, labels that you can possibly get is to be a flake, right? Or to be not dependable. If you start to get that label, if people don't count on you being where you say you're going to be when you say you're going to be, they don't want to hire you for a job. They don't want to hang out with you. They tend to not want to do things with you or trust you, right? I'll give you a perfect example of this. I had a couple of guys do some work on my house, okay, and they did a really good job. They're great guys. I think at a pretty decent price, really good craftsmanship. But I will never, ever use them again for any job, and I'll tell you why. It has nothing to do with their work. It has everything to do with them saying that they're going to be somewhere at a specific time and them not showing up and not telling me, and sometimes telling me but still showing up like an hour or two late, and repeated instances of this happening. So in my book, right, if you tell me you're going to be somewhere, right, you know, it's fine. You know, I understand that things come up, but you should be saying, like, you know, and I've done this before, right? I've run late, okay? And what I'll do is, if you're ever in a meeting with me and I'm running late, or, you know, we're supposed to meet at 2 o'clock, okay? About 1:30, I know I'm running late, okay? So, you know, 1:40 at the latest, I'm texting you and I'm saying, hey, look, I'm about 10 minutes behind right now. It looks like my ETA is 2:10. Count on that for now. You know, if that changes, I'll let you know, like, in 5 minutes if I have any kind of update in that. But 2:10 is what I'm aiming for now, right? That's where I'm at, and I'm letting you know, like, half an hour ahead of time if I can, as much time in advance as possible. And that's, you know, it's not the same thing as being punctual. But if you're not going to be punctual, that's the least that you can do. So being punctual, I think, is really important. Like I said, it prevents me from hiring you to do a job for me, even if you do an excellent job, because I need, you know, and you got to think about it this way, right? If you're not punctual, you inconvenience people a lot, right? So if I'm gonna, like, hang out at my house, I'm supposed to go to the gym, I'm supposed to go and do something, and you say you're gonna be there at a time and you don't show up, my schedule's messed up, right? I've planned other things. I can't be punctual. Now you're preventing me from being punctual to things. Now I got to cancel events and shit that I have planned because you just screwed up the whole timeline, right? Or we have less time, or there's not, you know, sometimes, for example, if you have a meeting that's an hour and someone shows up 20 minutes late and you only got 40 minutes, well, now the whole meeting might be worthless because you needed an hour worth of time. So you might as well, so you've lost not just the 20 minutes, but the whole hour, because the whole thing was not enough time. You have to schedule another meeting and you got to spend more time. So I can't stress enough to you that being punctual is really important. People are going to evaluate you very, very much based on how punctual you are, how it's keeping your word, right? Now, with that said, it doesn't mean that we can always be punctual, right? There are going to be exceptions. There's going to be times when we're late. I gave you a strategy for dealing with that. Like I said, as soon as you know you're going to be late, as soon as you know that you're running behind or you think that you might, let the person know. That's the first step. That's the first way to cure this problem of not being punctual, is to start there. But here's a strategy, and I borrowed this from someone. I can't remember her name, but I was at I did a speaking event at the Code Writers Workshop in DC, and one of the other speakers there talked about being punctual. She was very, very intelligent, very wise woman, and she talked about what her strategy is, which is a strategy that I employ as well, which is buffer time, right? And so if she's got to be somewhere at 2 o'clock, she's going to be there at 1:30 if there's a drive. So she plans on being there, right, half an hour later or half an hour earlier, and she's going to have something to do in her car, right? You don't want to show up, right? I mean, that's the thing, is like, if you're supposed to meet someone at 2 o'clock, you don't show up at 1:45 and text them and say, I'm here. That's no good. Or you don't show up at someone's office like, 15 minutes early. About 10 to 5 minutes early is on time, right? That's okay. But anything more than that, now you're causing the opposite problem. You're inconveniencing them. I mean, it's definitely annoying. I'll tell you for sure. When I'm supposed to meet someone at 2 o'clock and they're like knocking on the door at 1:40, I'm like, do you understand that I had other stuff scheduled? Like I need to finish up something. I hate to. It's rude to make you wait, but you're gonna have to wait because we're scheduled at 2 o'clock. So don't do that. But do what she said, right? So if you got to be somewhere, if you got a meeting at 2 o'clock, right, and you know that you have a problem with punctuality, right? Then what you do is you start building in that buffer, and that buffer, make it big, right, at first, until you can judge things right, because you have some kind of judgment error. You're making mistakes. You're not judging things right. So give yourself a half an hour buffer, right? If you got to be somewhere at 2 o'clock, okay, make sure that you're going to be there at 1:30. And even if you show up late, I mean, you've got half an hour worth of late. If you show up at 1:50, right, then you can walk in and you're fine. You're still early. But if you do get there on time at 1:30, then fine. Then you got your Kindle book that you pull out. You got your Duolingo as you're learning another language, or you can check your email. Like, you've got some tasks, have some stuff or some articles that you have, bookmarked that you're going to read later, or some YouTube videos. Yeah. How about some YouTube? How about some simple programmer YouTube videos that you can watch in your car for 20 minutes when you show up early for an interview, right? So build in those buffer times, and that takes away your excuse, right? There's no excuse for not being punctual, for not being a punctual person, if you apply the strategy, right? Because anyone can do this, right? You just got to build in these buffer times, and it's really easy to underestimate things, or to think that it's going to take you less time, or to not really think things through. So use the buffer. It's a really good strategy. It's helped me a lot. I almost always employ this as much as I can. The other thing, and I'll give you one other strategy here, which is that, and I do this very often when I start my day, is I look at my calendar first and I plan the day, and I really think through. I go mentally through, because I've done this before. What is it going to be like, right? So like today, for example, I had a doctor's appointment, okay? And I normally go to the gym at 3 o'clock, and I was thinking about the car and the situation, and I mentally pictured in my head, okay, I got to be somewhere at 1 o'clock. So I thought, okay, it's about a 10 to 15 minute drive. So I got to be out of the door, out of my house by 12:30. Right, so that gives me a 15-minute buffer. I have a little bit of less buffer because I know that I'm going to be there on time. And then I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have to find the place. So I'm going to have to walk around, right? And so I'm taking this into account. I'm envisioning this in my head. I'm envisioning how long is the appointment going to take? Well, it should take an hour. Is that really true? Have I ever been at appointments that took longer than an hour? So I'm envisioning that in my head. I'm thinking about, okay, well, realistically, it might be an hour and a half, right? Or it might be an hour and 45 minutes. I should account for that case, right? And so I'm saying, okay, so now we're at 2 o'clock, like 2:15. Might take some time for the Uber to come pick me up. So, right? So now I'm thinking, okay, so I'm going to be back home by 2:50, and then I'm going to have to grab my gym bag and go to the gym, right? I've thought this through, right? And I think this through for a lot of my day, so that I can make sure that I've got the timeline right. And if you do that, if you just take the extra 5 minutes to just walk through and really envision what's likely to happen, you're not going to make these mistakes, right? You're going to realize, right, when I'm leaving the gym, if I'm texting and someone says, well, where are you? How long is it going to take you to get home? Well, I'm on my way. I'll be there shortly. No, stop, think in your head and say, well, how long is the walk actually? Oh, it's a 10-minute walk and I have to finish up the set. So blah, blah, blah. Okay, punch that in. It's actually gonna be 25 minutes. That's a lot different than what you might just text off, say, I'll be there in 5 minutes. No, you're not gonna be in there in five minutes. You're gonna be there in 25 minutes, probably 30 minutes if you throw in the buffer. So you just gotta get in the habit of doing that. And I'll tell you, one last thing and we'll wrap this up. But what you gotta make sure that you do, okay, is however far from punctual you are, that's how much penalty buffer time you got to give, right? So if you're off all the time, if you're never making it to appointments on time, if you're always running late, you got to say, look, give yourself a 30-minute buffer for everything in your life. Just say, I got to be there 30 minutes early. That's my buffer, right? And start getting on time. And then now your accuracy for your measurement might improve, and now you can reduce that, or you can use your judgment a little bit more because you're getting feedback, right? But right now you can't trust yourself. You're not punctual, so don't trust yourself. Don't give yourself a 5-minute or 10-minute buffer. Give yourself a big ass buffer, right? And you're going to start to be on time. So I hope that helps you, and I hope that you realize, more importantly than anything else, that there's no excuse. There's no excuse for not being punctual, and this is really important. You have to deal with this part of your life, and you've got to figure out a way, because it's really going to hurt you in your career, in your life, and people are not going to trust you, and they're not going to think you're very professional if you can't be punctual. It's a very simple task that you should be able to do. But the good news is you can break that habit of not being punctual. You just have to employ these strategies, and they're pretty much foolproof, right? It doesn't mean that you'll never ever be late, but you should be on time early 95% of the time, and maybe honestly less than 5% of the time. That's when you should slip up and end up being late. All right, I like this question. I think this is a good one. So I will end this video on time. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and you'll get the videos, the life advice, everything that I have to give you every day here on Simple Programmer. Talk to you next time. Take care.